away, Angel, first, please.
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, How to Avoid Costly Hiring Mistakes with VP of MAPS, Monica Reynolds. Please note this webinar is being recorded and will be available within 24 hours after this webinar has ended on our MAPS Group YouTube channel. You may find the link to the YouTube channel in your Zoom confirmation email, and we will also drop it in the chat box momentarily. If you have questions for your coach, please type them into the chat box located in the taskbar at the bottom of your screen. Following the webinar, if you have any questions about today's call or coaching programs, please email us at fasttrack@kw.com. That's all for me. Monica, take it away.
Okay, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. And I know everybody's getting ready for hopefully a little 4th of July celebration. So thanks again, and thank you, Angel. Okay, so I've coached more agents and assistants than anyone in the country, and there are mistakes that are made. In fact, someone just put in the chat box that they hired 3 and they quit after a month or so. That happens, and I, of course, made those mistakes myself until I perfected the system. I dug the well on hiring assistants. I wrote 2 books in the 90s. In fact, I was thrown out of a Coldwell Banker office because I hired an assistant and they thought that was too much liability. Now, given the fact I was doing all the business of the office, you take all the agents together, I still did more business than all of them together combined. And yet it was a liability then. So now we're out of the dark ages and now we're into the new world of leverage. And yes, it's very costly. I usually say to an agent, when you hire the wrong person, when you look at your time and the effort you spent, it's usually at least the salary of that assistant times 3 sometimes. Because if you had them for a while and you didn't have the wherewithal to let them go, or the fortitude to say this isn't working and let them go, then they are making even more costly mistakes like losing business or things not done correctly or losing information. So with that said, let's go to the next slide here. So if you have a question, put it in the chat box. I'm going to go through the 7 costly mistakes here and the right system to put into place, all right? So when you look at the next slide, one of the things that I want you to hear is that, when you hire a person, you just don't look at their resume. That's all good in going 3 levels deep. I'll talk a little bit more about that. You want it to be a cultural match because you're going to spend more time with this person than you do anyone in your family possibly. And so you want to also spell out their expectations. And you want to know when and where they're going to work and how it's going to be. And none of that is a secret. I usually take the job description and I read it line by line. And I say, you may not know how to do these things. I am just putting it on record that these are the things that I am setting the expectations that you will learn and that this will be what we will be doing. And the level of support and expectations, you're setting all those expectations right up front. Now, this is from Mo Anderson, who is the vice chairman of all of Keller Williams, who is an excellent person on hiring and an excellent person, of course, on building a huge business. So if you take a look at the next slide, Stephanie, let's go to that 7 steps to getting the right people on board. You got to know your why. Why are you doing this? What is your why? And so, why do you want to leverage? And so there's nothing wrong with being an agent and having no leverage. And there's a certain point of saturation where you can't do anymore. And if you don't want to have a life, maybe you can do a little bit more. But usually that 45 to 55 range, there's absolutely no way for you to go to the next level sometimes and have excellent customer service, which ends up in repeat and referral business, which is the most profitable lead generation. When somebody calls you and said, hey, you did such a great job finding this house for us. We'd love to talk to you now. We want to sell it. We want to buy another one. That is phenomenal lead generation. You got to know your budget. Does it support another hire? And know your numbers. Do they support another hire? So for example, I always use this analogy. Let's just say that you hire someone part-time for 10 hours a week, 2 hours a day, or however it ends up, and you're going to pay them $15 an hour. That's $150 a week. That's $600 a month. Now, in those 10 hours, you're not doing anything that you should, you're not doing things you shouldn't be doing. You're going to be doing lead generation. Now, will you get at least one listing taken or one buyer sale that you wouldn't have had because you now have 40 hours back in your world? Absolutely. Now, scale it up. Go to 20 hours a week, $15 an hour, $300 times 4, $1,200 a month. In those 20 hours, now your assistant is really doing some of those, the paper stuff, the file stuff, calling a sign down, getting something scheduled. Just think about that time back in your world, that world of leverage. So Gary Keller talks about MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, leads, listing, and leverage. So leads, listings, and leverage. And to grow your business, to go to the next level, you know, it's all about the leverage. Now, you may want just some personal time back. You may have 3 kids you haven't seen in years, and you'd like to see them again. And that's leverage also. And so knowing your why, knowing your budget. And so I'm saying to everyone, whether you make a $600 investment, a $1,200 investment, or a $3,000 investment a month, what is your current average commission? And I guarantee you that if you lead generate during those times, you lead follow up during those times, you will more than pay for your assistant. I call that at least a 3 times return of investment. So you should have at least a 3 times return of investment if you do the right things. You can't go to the movies. You do the right things, right? So you have a detailed job description for each position. So if you want to email me at monica@kw.com, you know, my assistant will send you that job description, you know, and I use what's great about a job description. Listen to this, make a note. The job description is a checklist for training. So you're checking it off and dating it, and your assistant is doing the same thing of each one as you move forward. Now, have a 30, 60, 90-day plan for each position. I will go through that today. You'll get that. Make sure your compensation plan is ready and your training program is in place. So what is your training program? Obviously, the Perfect Real Estate Assistant that I do. It's a 6-month course. The first call for you each month is for you as a great leader, to be a great rainmaker, a leader, and a boss, and to hear what we're covering so you can help with the accountability. Now, also for training, you need to make sure in your market center, your office, wherever, that there's somebody that's going to help them with command, your CRM, somebody that's going to help them with, you know, going to some of the training meetings as far as what happens in your office. So all of that can be done externally too. However, you need to take the time to spend the time with your assistant so they understand the files, they understand the people you're working with, they understand how you like things set up. That's just a matter of communicating. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Use the KPA and DISC with deadlines. So when I'm hiring someone, this is the first trick. When I'm looking at the resumes, I will say to them, and I will call them, and I'll call them and just introduce myself. And we've got another slide coming up on that process. And I'll give you the script for that. And I'm going to say to them, if I like what they said, I said, I'm going to send you a KPA, Keller Personality Assessment, and a DISC. Today is Tuesday. Can I get this back by Thursday at 5? Now at 5:01, 5:02 on Thursday, if I don't have it back and they said they would get it back, I'm moving on. I am a time freak stickler about being on time and people paying attention to time. Now I ask them twice, will it be a challenge for you to get this information back? This is, you can't win or lose. It's just your personality. Just helps me get to know you. It'll take about, you know, an hour to do both of the tests. Create growth plans. All right. So when you are onboarding the right people, you need to make sure that there is a pathway of growth for them, and that's how you keep them. So sometimes when people tell me that they lost an assistant is because they felt that they were in a cul-de-sac job, or they felt that the communication was down, or they felt that, gee, for all I'm doing, I'm not sure that I'm in the right place financially. So it's kind of like a divorce. People get divorced usually for communication, and 2 is money. So let's not make those mistakes, and I'll share more. The next slide, Stephanie, the hiring process. So on the hiring process on the next slide, there is the ad, there is the resume, over the phone interview. So let me share with you about this. So when I call them, I randomly call them and I say, do you have a couple of minutes? Thank you so much for the resume. Did I catch it at a good time? Now they'll say yes, or they'll tell me a time to call them back. So if they say yes and I go, great, this will just take a few minutes. You know, can you tell me a little bit more about your job history? I've got your resume here. I'd like to hear it from you. All I'm trying to do, everyone, is to make sure they have a clear speaking voice and they're not going to go, well, you know, I need, remember, they represent you. They're going to be talking to your clients. So you need to have that clear speaking voice. You need to hear that. And you need to hear that they can put two sentences together and they make you proud because they're representing you. So I like it when they say, okay, I'll start a couple years ago. This is what I did. This is what I did. And it's a clear conversation. Then I'll ask, you know, describe the perfect job for you. You know, what do you want in a job? You know, what are you looking for? And then obviously, what are you the best at? And what are your hobbies? And sometimes I'll say, what is something that you absolutely don't want to do? And somebody will say, well, I don't like handling calls where there's a problem or there's a client who's upset. Well, I don't know about your office, but the more deals you do, no matter what, and you could be totally 100% in the right, you're going to get a few of those calls. So that's challenging right then and there. So if I don't like what they're saying and I don't like the way they're talking to me, there's no energy, I call the dead person, then I'm going to say to them, thank you so much. Let me be back in touch with you for the next step. And basically I send an email the next day saying the position's been filled. But here's what I do that I think is really smart. If I like what they said, then this is where I go back to, let me share something with you. I'd like you to take a KPA and a DISC test. It'll take about an hour. Today is Tuesday. Can I get it back by Friday or Thursday at 5 o'clock? 5:01, I don't have it back. I'm not interested. What I love is the eager beaver one who sends it back. He or she gets it back to me right away. And that is absolutely terrific. And so I want you to hear that you're looking for that. I love it when I get an email back that says, thank you for your call. You know, I'm looking forward to taking the test. I mean, I'm looking for, see if there's any follow-up that kind of sets it apart. Now, office interview. I love for them to come into the office, and I get the COVID thing, but I think most states are kind of open right now. So let's just go with that. They're going to come into the office. I'm looking to see how they showed up. Did they show up on time? Because remember, I'm a time freak. Okay, second thing, did they show up professionally? I'm not looking for the person that came out of the beach, happened to walk in flip-flops. True story, happens in San Diego. I'm looking for the professional. And then I'm not going to hire on the spot. Do not hire on the spot. Do not hire on the spot. Do not hire on the spot. If I need to say it 10 more times, because I've made that mistake. And I know a lot of you have made that mistake where you just want, wow, you sound great. Okay, good, let's get started. Because you just want the pain over because you know you need that leverage. Now, the career visioning, if you haven't taken that course, it's a great course to take. And in that course, they teach you about the resumes. And so I want you to hear about the 3 levels. No, and I always say, do not, if I get a resume with all their friends and family, I'm going to submit it back and say, could you please, share people that are not your friends and family? I want this to be professional. People that you've worked with. So I'll call the first person and I'll find out how they did. And then I'll say, great talking to you. I need to talk to one more person. Who else do you know right now? And guess what? They give me a name that this person didn't, that the applicant didn't give me. Do you think I'm going to get a real story there? Don't stop there. After you talk to that second person, great talking to you. Is there anyone else you can think of that knows Jackie or Bill or whoever? I just need one more person to talk to. 3 levels deep. I guarantee you when you take the time to go 3 levels deep, you hear amazing things that you go, oh, wait a second. That would be a mistake. I didn't know that. If you call their mother, their friends, their family, they're all going to say how great they are. However, I did have a mother one time say, oh, I wouldn't hire him. No, he has a hard time getting out of bed. Okay, that was a good one. So when in that career visioning process, you want to hear their life story, and I'm not going to get into that, but I'm looking for winner and I'm looking for victim. If they're victim, then I'm not hiring them because then they're always going to be a victim. I'm looking for the winner. I'm looking for, here's an example of a single parent raising 2-3 kids, going to school at night, just making the best world that they possibly can. I'm looking for winner. I don't want to hear about the divorce story. I don't want to hear about their sad luck story. I'm looking for winners, and I hope that makes sense. Test skills. So once they come into the office on the second interview, I test their skills. I give them a bunch of names to enter in the database. I want to see if they have some CRM experience. I ask them to type out a letter for me, and I kind of watch what's happening, because I've hired people who say they can type and they're more of a pecker. And I need someone who knows how to type and who knows how to put sentences together. And I go in depth in that in the class in a more hiring process. Okay, so if you have a team, you have everybody meet and everybody's in agreement that that's your next hire. Again, I said on the job description, if you want a copy, I'll give it to you. That job description is the training checklist. The schedule, I make sure that they understand the hours and what's committed. And then I give them an offer letter of how they're going to get paid. I do believe in paying them a referral bonus if they're not licensed, but a referral fee if they are. And so we talk about that. So I never want to hire anyone that has a cul-de-sac of salary, meaning this is your salary, this is all you get. I want them to see the opportunities, and I never discuss pay on the first meeting. I don't discuss it usually on the second meeting, but the third meeting when I bring the offer letters, when I discuss pay. If you discuss pay on the first meeting, everything you say, listen to me on this, I've done this wrong too, everything you say is judged. I want to show them the opportunity, and I want to share with them that my goal is to help them make more money in referrals than they do in their salary. And those are the people that you're looking for. Okay, next one, let's go to the resume checklist. So let's just make sure that everybody's clear. When you get a bunch of resumes in, and I know that the job market, I'm not silly, I know the job market in some areas like Austin is ridiculous. There, you know, so many jobs available, it's crazy. So I take the resumes that come in and I divide them up into 3 categories. No admin experience, meaning Burger King. Nothing wrong with Burger King or McDonald's or Kentucky Fried Chicken. I worked my way through school in those places. The second thing that I look for is admin experience. That's the second pile. And the third pile is admin and a real estate license. So obviously admin and a real estate license would be the first pile that I pay attention to. And so on that application, I'm looking for a resume that says there was some consistent job flow. If they've had more than 2 jobs in 2 years, I'm probably not interested. I have to ask them that question. What's this about? If they've had like 6 jobs in 2 years, I'm definitely not going to be interested in that person. That's a job jumper, or they just really haven't found what they want to do. And it sounds to me like there could be, well, if I don't like it, I'm out of here. Okay. I love a customer service background for an executive assistant. I love a real estate background. I love that they have an education background, and it could be in computer studies and science, and they know how to do this and they know how to do that. I'm good. Just have something that you worked on to grow. I'm looking for that growth component. Recommendation letter. Oh, that's always nice if they have that. Sometimes they do. And again, professional appearance. It's critical. They're going to be meeting your clients, and it's who you are. Now, you can have a more casual office with a team t-shirt, because I mean, Gary Keller, KWRI, we all wear our t-shirts. I got my maps on right now. In fact, that's what we do. That's our culture. But still, I've got a jacket on, and it's professional. Executive assistant. Let's go to the next slide for the ad, Stephanie. So this is an ad that I wrote a long time ago. Now, a lot of people use this on Indeed.com. That's a place they go and find them. Believe it or not, Craigslist has found some great assistants, ISAs, buyer agents, believe it or not, it's just there. The other things, if you have some sort of a local college where they have a bulletin board, that's been a great place. Making sure that you post it also on your Facebook, and you also send out an email to all your database saying, thank you for your support. My business is growing. I'm looking for a great executive assistant. And then if you look at the ad here, you can paraphrase some of this and change it up. You should be an organizer, a positive person, a good communicator, both written and verbal, have excellent computer skills. Excellent. Okay, have a good sense of humor, be a fast learner with a quick mind, and be willing to work hard and smart. You'll work in a fast-paced real estate office in blank blank. I don't tell them who I am at this point because I don't need to talk to them at this point. I'm going to pre-screen the resumes. I think it's respectful. I think it's a good idea that you always, 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 you know, say, thank you for your resume. We filled the position. We will keep your resume on file. You always do that, even though you know, okay, I don't need to call this person. They don't have the skills that I'm looking for. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So you always want to have a job description. And unfortunately, I've talked to more assistants than anyone in the country and agents. And a lot of agents don't have a job description, or they give them a small job description and within a month later, that isn't even the job they're doing. So don't you be that agent. This is your business. You are moving from being a realtor to a business person when you hire an assistant. You're a realtor, now you're a business person, and you're building a business. You're creating leverage. One of the mistakes that I'm going to share with you too is do not make them an independent contractor. Do not do it. Do not do it. Do not do it. They are a W-2. They're an employee. They are on a salary or hourly. The IRS will frown on you if they report you and say, I had a job description. Independent contractor can't have one. I went to work at the same time. I left at the same time. I sat in the same chair, and I had a desk, and I had a dedicated job each day that I had to do, and a schedule. That's not an independent contractor. Ask me, I had a $35,000 fine. So you don't want to do that. That was in the 90s. So I'm very clear, W-2, even if they have a license, W-2. Now, a lot of people can stretch and say, well, they have a business license and they're a real estate agent. I say, good. I just hope your assistant doesn't get mad someday and report you like mine did. Okay. All right. Roadmap to success. All right. That's a job description, because now you're going to tell them exactly what is going to be expected of them. There's the clarity of the expectations. And now the importance of a job description too, it's duplicatable and scalable, meaning that when you hire your next assistant, you're pulling pieces of this one off. So my job description, if you get that at monica@kw.com, just email, we'll take care of it. That particular one is for one assistant that does listings and closings. And then you're going to, when you hire your second one, you're going to branch that off. I never promote contract to close, meaning that one assistant takes it all the way to close. Two different personality styles. Now, can one assistant adapt into those? Yes, but as you build your team, you want a super analytical on the closings, and you want an ISC on your listings. Okay, training checklist. Like I said, you just check it off and date it as you move forward. Let's go to the next slide, Stephanie. So on the next slide is a 30, 60, 90. And so we know what SMART goals are. They're specific, measurable, achievable, repeatable, and timely. Okay, so next slide, Stephanie, let's look at the 30-day. So in career visioning, I wrote this for the 30, 60, 90 for the executive assistant. So a lot of us would like them to do everything in the 90 days in the first week. Don't do that. Don't do that. Slow is good in making sure that they absolutely understand it. So in that first 30 days, you're looking at answering the phone, going over the database, knowing how to input, and processing and communicating the listing. Just stop there. Just stop there. Now, if they're part-time, all of those things can sort of be accomplished in those 20 hours a week. Now, will they be able to finalize all the listings and do all the listing follow-up? No. Will they understand the database? Yes. Will they be able to handle the phone calls that they're there? Yes. So remember, using common sense. So a full-time person, yes, listings from A to Z. 60 days, let's go to that, Stephanie. Now you guys are all going to get a copy of the PowerPoint. So just remember that. Put your questions in the chat box. I know I speak really quickly. I just have so much information I want to share with you. So the 60-day goals: building closing file checklist, proficient on pending files, closing files. Okay, so now we're into the closings. We're into the tracking numbers. So in the perfect real estate assistant, I have a whole segment on the perfect listing system, from the pre-list package, you get a copy of that, to the checklist, to the letters, to the just listed letter. Everything is done for you. Then on the closing, the same thing happens there in the assistant training program, Perfect Real Estate Assistant. And I teach the assistants how to track numbers and why they're important. So in that program, it's the great big picture. But what I love about this program, remember I dug the well, is that the first call every month is for you, the agent. You need to know how to be a great rainmaker, a great boss, and you need to know what the assistant is doing. So in working on that week. When you end this course, there's a 450-page policy and procedures manual that includes the lead generation systems also. So you're not reinventing the wheel. So if you hire one, it doesn't work out, they move away, they decide to have a baby, whatever happens, it happens, life happens. You are never going to be hostage after taking this course. You will not be hostage to any assistant who happens to have a life change or it doesn't work out for you. So when you look at tracking of, numbers, it's so important. It's all about the appointments. How many appointments did you set this week? Because that determines the activities prior that you did to get those appointments. Listings taken, obviously, listings under contract, buyers under contract, price reductions, closed, database. Database, what are we tracking there? I have a whole segment on database and how to get 10% of your database to give you repeat and referral business. Now, you're not going to do all of these systems, but your assistant is. And in order to build a duplicatable and scalable business, you need the leverage to take you to the next level. Put your questions in the chat box. I'm going to go there in just a minute. So let's go to the 90-day one, Stephanie. And on the 90 days, okay, they should be in charge of all marketing and Facebook. This is full-time. All listings, all pendings, database, phones and scripts, tracking weekly numbers, goal monitoring. So on the 15th of the month, or do we have a gap? Are we on track? Where are we? And assisting with 1 or 2 lead generation systems, whether it's pulling numbers on expireds, or maybe it's putting packages together for expireds, FSBOs, whatever. So I want you to know that this is a very thorough system of now of what a full-time assistant can do. Now, if you have a part-time, you may get, I know agents who have a part-time assistant right now that just do social media, and that could be virtual. So this course is for virtual. It's for assistants that are in your office. However your assistant is hired, it's great for them. All right. Then I see a question in the chat box. What is a good pay scale for a full-time assistant, salary or hourly, and what would you do with that? I pay people, to begin with an hourly, and I start with $15. Now, that's California, so it's $15 to $20 an hour, because the average sales price, like in San Diego, is $850,000. Okay, it's a little bit higher there. If I'm in Louisiana or Alabama, maybe it's not that high. Maybe you can, get a great executive assistant with an admin background for $10 to $12 an hour. So every area is different. What I look to is a fair wage to pay them. And so let me talk about this. This is a mistake. I always say to an assistant, the first 90 days is the time that you and I decide that we're working forward. We're going to move forward after 90 days. During that time, I'm going to pay you $15 an hour, if that's your market, okay? And it'll be hourly. After 90 days, I'm going to start paying you a bonus on every single closing. I will never change your salary. Listen to what I just said. I will never change your salary. What we will change is your bonuses based on closings. So after 90 days, the first, 6 months, then I'm going to pay you $50 for every closing. I want you to want my closings. I want you to want for more deals to happen. Now, at the end of a year, then we'll look at that bonus structure again and make the adjustments, based on your activities and how you've helped grow the business. So I'm always throwing that out. Now, I cap it usually at about $125, maybe $150, depends on your price point. It could be $500. It depends on what your average commission is. And so I believe in paying an assistant well. They stay. They stay if you pay well. They stay if you set expectations. Now, it was never in my world, and Stephanie's worked with me for 10 years, to call after hours. I did that once in 10 years when we were selling real estate together. And that was only because, I was telling her something funny that happened to a seller that was driving us crazy. Other than that, I knew the hours and I made sure that I always had a meeting with her by phone or touching base. What do I need to know at the end of the day? What do you need to know? And so there was none of this 9 o'clock texting. Hey, can you do this for me? Can you do that? Now, if you want to set expectations up with your assistant to write your contracts on Saturdays and Sundays or after hours, then you set those expectations up and you pay them accordingly. Okay. I'm a big proponent on every assistant brings in a database of at least 300 people or more of their friends, family, and past coworkers, and that we mark it into them, and they have a field with their initials in it. Anything that comes from that and from them asking their friends and family and past coworkers for business, they get 25% referral bonus fee. If they're not licensed, then they get a bonus, and you can determine what that bonus is until they get licensed. Okay, all right, so let's go to the next slide, Stephanie. So real fast here, pass the baton, 3-week honeymoon, 21-day close. All right. So these are great tools. And in that training, we do about pass the baton. You should never throw a file down on the desk. You always make sure you spend 2-3 minutes, and I've timed it 2 minutes and 46 seconds, 2 minutes, 46 seconds to answer these questions about the motivation of the seller, the kids, the pets, does it need a lockbox? What kind of marketing? Those sort of things, so that the assistant isn't trying to figure it out in the file. 3-week honeymoon, I give the assistant scripts. I think you should call every day, especially in these fast-paced markets. You got to call them every day. I give them the scripts for that. And then if it's going into close, the first 10 days and the last 10 days for sure, if not all of them, they get all the scripts on what to say each time. You will never lose a client because you call them too much. And your client is always going to say, Charity asked that I call. Jessica asked that I call. They're always going to mention the name. Here's what she wanted you to know, or here's what he wanted you to know. All right, next one, Stephanie. So I believe in a Friday report. I work for the Dave Ramsey, if you guys are familiar with that, solutions. And I work for Dave, and I ran their ELP program, endorsed local provider, which gave out their real estate referrals. And I learned this from them. Every Friday is sent a report. 5 things I did to move the business forward, week high, week low, and what did you do to wow a customer? My assistants always did this. It takes 5 or 6 minutes to do this, and it kind of cements in your head what they're doing, but more importantly, it cements in their head that they had a productive week. Again, 5 things I did to move the business forward. It could be about a closing. It could be about database, week high, week low, and what'd you do to wow a customer. Next slide, Stephanie. Respectful of everybody's time here. Okay, so I have the perfect real estate assistant class, a 450-page policy and procedures manual. I train you to be a great rainmaker, a great boss. We go over lead generation. We go over database. We go over customer service and scripts and 33 touch. We go over the other things that I think are so important, having the perfect listing system, the perfect closing system, and also goal setting and client appreciation parties. You don't have to reinvent the world. It starts July 7th. Now, if you go to mapscoaching.com/group, you can find the perfect real estate assistant. And if you enter in Web 100, you'll save $100 off the first month. The course is a 6-month course. It's 3 one-hour classes. Every single week, you'll get 25 to 45 pages of great, great material. Again, you will never be hostage to systems. I've either built these systems over the 40 years in real estate that I've been in, or I've stolen from the best, because I'm the VP of Maps. I can get into everybody's business and I go, hey, that's a good idea. I'm going to tweak that a little bit. And then I give them the tweak, they love it. And then I take the material. That's how it works. And then you don't have to reinvent it. I've got the most fantastic customer letters. I've got the most fantastic lead generation systems. All of that is there. I even touch on probate. So with that said, sign up for that course and let me go to some of these questions. I'm wondering how to win in the recruiting world, especially right now where the number of job postings has increased drastically while applicant pools have dried up. Isn't that the truth? Jeremiah, I get that. So here's what I would say to you. Take a look at my ad and make sure that you put in there that it's salary and bonus based. And so you have to, people are looking for opportunities that are exciting. They're looking for growth. most people right now are not looking for, okay, I can make 25,000 a year, 30,000 a year. Just say great base salary plus generous bonuses plus opportunities to earn more money. I mean, to me, we had a headhunter call our office and we lost one of our really good guys and basically doubled their income. It doubled his income and we couldn't do it. And so they're out there and they're aggressive and it's about the money. He said, I never thought I would leave MAPS. I never thought I'd leave KW, but how can I turn down doubling my salary? And I said, you can't, you just can't. So how many people can one assistant really help efficiently? Okay, good question, Grace. Here's your answer. One assistant can handle up to 45 closings per year. Okay, that's Gary Keller says that. Monica Reynolds wrote it in a book in the 1990s. Okay, so when you have 100 transactions, you need 2 full-time. So 1 full-time up to 45, 2 full-time up to 100. You need 1.5 if you're in that 50 to 75 range for sure. But I always say hire ahead of where you're going. So you want 2 full-time as soon as you get past the 50. If you follow the model in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, you hire 2 full-time assistants, you get your production up past 75 before you hire a buyer agent. If you follow the rules, you will make money. Okay, should she be doing anything for the team itself or just the rainmaker? Well, yeah, I mean, if you're over 100, if you're over 50 transactions, this person, he or she can always set up open houses. But remember the bandwidth. You know, if you bring in 10 listings in 1 week, no, she's not setting up open houses. So it's kind of a common sense thing. I don't know how many people are on your team, but I've seen where one assistant has, is doing 75 transactions, has a team of 3 buyer agents and an agent. They're not doing anything for the buyer agent. In fact, the buyer agent is closing their own files. I think that's wrong. A buyer agent is not a very good closer. They're not good on details because they're a high I. They're exciting. They're great salespeople. Don't let them close transactions. So you might need a second assistant. All right, let me see what else is there. Okay. Yes, you'll have access to this recording. Hiring my first assistant executive or VA in the next month. Need help with daily time-sucking tasks, organization, lead follow-up, email templates. Not sure where to start or who to look for. Okay, so I don't know if you're, okay, where to start, you want to sign up for the class, okay? Because all the answers are there. Plus they're live calls, you get to talk to me. We have 15 minutes of Q&A at the end. You can ask me questions and so can your assistant. And if they don't talk, I call on them. And they have homework assignments every single week. Again, a 450-page policy and procedures manual. So if you're going to hire a virtual assistant, there is myoutdesk.com and there is cyberbacker.com. Cyberbacker.com is who we usually recommend. They're all, you just have to sit down with the virtual office and see what they have to offer. And put an ad, like I said, in Indeed.com. The other way to find a great assistant is to ask your affiliates. Do not, under any circumstance, say to them, can you think of anyone? Could you let me know? No, here's how I do it. Hey, Mr. Title Person or Miss Title Person or lender that works with me or home warranty, I need 2 names by next Monday of people who have a job, don't have a job. I don't need to use your name. That might be a good fit for me as an assistant. You need to help me with that. I need 2 names and you can't tell me you haven't thought of anybody. So you got a whole week to think about it. I just say 2 names. You come up with it and I'll call you on Monday to get those names. Okay, the second assistant quit because she had too much on her plate being in school and working part-time. Okay, so I would have asked more questions about school. What's that obligation? How will she get her homework done? How many hours is she at school? Will that interfere? What's her backup plan? So that was more in depth. So you hired a part-time person who had a full-time job at school. So you got to really think through that. Third quit because she wanted to help her boyfriend with his business. Okay, so obviously you had someone who didn't have the shiny eyes and was excited about working with you. So just being totally transparent. Remember, all these things have happened to me. I've done it in 40 years. I've seen it, had it happen. So you always want to hire the one with the shiny eyes that leans in when you're talking, goes, yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's great. So her working with her boyfriend, that's a bad sign. That's not very good judgment, number one. And number two, it doesn't sound like you had a committed career. I'm looking someone who wants a career, that they see there's a growth pattern, there's a learning pattern, there's a training pattern. I'm going to pour into you. And it's not a cul-de-sac job with a salary. Sell the opportunity. Don't talk about the money yet. Okay. Okay, I already have an assistant just one class away from getting her license. I am going to enroll her in your PREA class. Thank you. She's eager to learn. How can I make sure I don't run her off? Well, that's a good point. You need to say to her, I am making this investment in you. I'm making the time investment because I will be paying you to go learn. And I want you to bring one idea from every single call. Now there's probably 25, just one that you are going to implement. And every time you have a call with Monica, you're going to also then, what is the 7th? It's a Wednesday. Every time you have a call with Monica, I want you to give me your notes and spend 5 minutes with me telling me what you're going to put into place. So you build that accountability, you build that partnership, and then you say, and I have a call with Monica once a month, and I'll share with you what I'd like to have put into place. So if you do that, you will absolutely win. Carolina Garcia. Hope I said that right. Okay, I think I covered most of all of the questions. If you have any questions, pop them in there. Should there be an expectation or agreement for the assistant putting them through the training? You know, okay, the cost is $199 per month. And if you use the coupon here, you get $100 off the first month. I guarantee you, every single person who's taken the class has said, this is the best value. And that's my goal, is that you get me, I'm answering the questions, you get this training, your assistant is on board with the big picture. And should there be expectations? Yes, I'm going to put you through this training. I'm making the investment. And so every single call, you need to put one item in place and you need to give me your notes. Give me your notes. I hate it when they don't print off the material and take notes. I hate it when they're sitting there multitasking because it's a Zoom call and cameras are all on and I call them out and I'll say, hey, Jessica Downey, what are you doing? You know, or I'll say, Cammie Rude, I see you're looking at something. Tell me what's going on. I mean, I call them out. So after first call, they all start paying attention. And what's great about Zoom is now I can see them and it's just not me talking and talking and talking. And I call them out and I say, so tell me, just give me an idea. What's the best thing that you learned today? So I go through that and I call on them and it's great. So this class is for rainmakers, the first call. The second and third call are for assistants. If you don't have an assistant yet, you go on all 3 calls because you are the assistant and you want that information. A lot of high C agents will say, I need to go through the class first. And I go, great. Class frequency is every Wednesday, 3 times a month, 1 hour. The class is for admin, 2 calls, 1 call per month for the rainmaker, teaching you to be a great boss and how to keep your assistants and communicate.